Hello guys, Tops here. Today something special. I have NIMBLEFORGed my hammer guy. And that was actually okay. So, as you guys know, I always test my builds, my theories, and I'm always on the hunt for new stuff, right? We just did Black Monolith, and a long while ago, I recruited this Oath Taker, and this Oath Taker had super weird stars, right? He had low defense, first and foremost, like horrible defense. We are at 24 defense with veteran levels, that's trash. He had good attack, 3 stars fatigue, which is really high fatigue for an Oath Taker, and 2 stars initiative. So, I thought this might be a candidate for NIMBLEFORGE. And then I found the famed hammer with additional damage and armor pen. And then I thought, I went bankrupt for this, by the way. And I thought to myself, look, maybe the hammer is nice if you go fast with it and you stagger your opponents. And that actually worked. So, I think this, for early game, is pretty good with Nimble. Later in the game, NIMBLEFORGE is probably the better option, although I'm still testing with NIMBLEFORGE. NIMBLEFORGE, you basically take Nimble and Forge and you wear light Battleforge armor. I have the Lindworm armor with an armor attachment for 300 armor with 27 fatigue, and I have a 246 helmet with 10 fatigue. So that is by no means perfect, like you can go way lighter on this. And we have currently 85% Battleforge, but that's because the armor is damaged. I think normally you have 72 with this setup, I think, and 85% Nimble. So ideally I want to go down a little bit lighter in order to achieve more Nimble values, right? So we get more injury resistant. And basically I swapped out Steel Bro for Nimble on this build. And that makes you, especially with 90 hit points, even on headshots, fairly resistant to a lot of stuff, but it's not perfect. So, anyways, back to the point. The idea behind this build was I leveled initiative, a lot of initiative, and I went with dodge and relentless. So, and this makes me fairly fast in the round. Although I only have 90 initiative, which is not ideal, and high fatigue, and I have a weapon that theoretically uses a lot of fatigue, a lot of the times you go faster than certain opponents, especially big opponents. And you can apply the stagger hit with the smite. So stagger reduces the initiative by 50% of an opponent. That basically means that even your super slow Battleforge boys with like 50 initiative and then 29 initiative and whatnot, even these guys tend to go before the big boys go. Something like Fallen Heroes, Unholds, Armored Unholds, right? Stuff like that already goes fairly slow, and if it gets staggered, it even goes slower. So most of your guys have the first hit, and that is basically a stun that cannot be resisted. If you look at this way. So absolutely core for this is that you have relentless, so you're not slowed down by your fatigue, and you always, the weight penalty does not apply for you. So you always go first on turn 2, most of the times. You're probably faster than, if you have a team of full Battleforge, you always go first on the team, right? And that's kind of the goal, applying the stagger early to a big target, right? Or killing targets early. That's kind of the idea behind this build. But also the defense of Battleforge. You are still a fairly defensive bro. And obviously I have a bad candidate here. This guy is super low base defense, and dodge didn't... It helped him a little bit, but it didn't fix this low base defense. Especially against nomads who throw sand at me all the time. This guy got himself a lot of the time in trouble. Yeah, but I felt this might be a way. I was also thinking about Overwhelm. And this might actually be something, if you build this guy just Nimble and put Battleforge away for Overwhelm. This might work too, because with Nimble you even wear lighter armor. I don't know if I have lighter armor, but let's just assume your whole nimble value is like so, 117 initiative. Let's say 110 initiative. And I get a little bit more, maybe one roll more in initiative. With 120 initiative, you should be faster than most things in the game. So you can always go first with Relentless and apply Overwhelm and stagger to your opponents. The bad thing about this is the AoE has only a 33% chance of stagger and a 33% chance of knockback. But you hit 3 targets that you would overwhelm, theoretically. So this build seems, for me, like a potential way to make the hammer that is, even on this famed one, I felt a lot of the times it was quite underwhelming in terms of damage, especially single target. I mean, the AoE damage is like still super low, doesn't really kill stuff. It's kind of like comparable to the AoE attack from the sword. Doesn't kill stuff a lot of the time, but it's just consistent damage. And yeah, this one had minus 5% chance to hit, so it's a little bit worse than the sword AoE. But it destroys a fair amount of armor, right? And yeah, you always have the single target attack for the things that you guaranteed stagger, that you guaranteed want to stagger, like a champion or maybe an Unhold, something like that. 100% stagger. And the AoE in order to stagger on average 1 opponent and overwhelm 3 opponents. So this is a way where I thought this is actually decent utility with less survivability compared to the full Battleforge version of this build. But this might be a way to play the hammer with an optional AoE, right? To put this guy, get a bro that has a little bit higher defense, a little bit higher initiative, maybe a little bit more fatigue. Like, Oath Takers are actually perfect in my opinion for this. Like a well-rolled Oath Taker can be made into this. Maybe even a Thief, like who rolled well. Kind of want something that has high base initiative, but still fairly high other stats, right? Maybe an Assassin, but Assassins have low hit points. There's too much to fix there. So maybe this guy is actually decent to be put on a flank at least a little bit. Like, you can kind of leave this guy unsupported. And I think this might be actually decent if you put a Sword Lance right behind that. So the Sword Lance Reap can just clean up the kills that the Shatter from the AoE makes. Although what I really hate about the Shatter is it knocks back your opponents, so you can't hit them actually. I mean, on some opponents that's kind of like a disarm, because I think Fallen Heroes, they can't move on and attack with two-handed weapons. So on the Fallen Heroes, this might be a disarm. On most opponents, it's just not a disarm. It's just annoying that you can't just kill them with a second attack from a guy behind him. So yeah, again, this is a lot of rumbling from me. This is a lot of testing, but I think this build might have potential. I would encourage you to test that for yourself, and I will do more future testing in the future, especially with NIMBLEFORGE and Overwhelm things and whatnot. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I have a lot of other guide and build videos, and if you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I do daily live streams. Tomorrow we'll be starting a new run, and yeah, have a nice day, guys. Bye bye.